Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
I've been pretending to be somebody else since I was just 15, and I don't know if the show was for them or for me anymore. I'm not sure, and I don't recall being born, but I remember being underwhelmed when I worked out who I was, because that didn't fit.
This is Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm here with
Frank Turner.
Nice, here at Punk Rock Bowling.
I am back at Punk Rock Bowling. I've been here a few times before, and it's always complete fucking chaos, actually, is what it is. I mean, I say that the first year I was here, I went too hard, is all I'm going to say. In fact, I'll tell you...
Vegas.
I'll tell you a quick... Well, it's Vegas, but also the first year, the day after my show, I sort of woke up in a bowling alley about 60 miles away from Vegas wearing a crop top and hot pants, and then had to get back to town to get my flight back to England. So, yeah, first year wasn't great for me.
And do you remember how you got there?
No idea.
Still to this day?
To this day, well, the good news was I came out of the place I was in and immediately ran into a bunch of friends who all just went, ha ha, and I was like, okay, I'm not on my own. That's the good news. But that was back when I used to indulge a lot more than I do these days.
Well, that's like when I lived in L.A. during the 80s.
Right.
Sunset Strip, teenager, hanging out with all those bands.
I'd imagine you've got some stories to tell.
Yeah, well, you know what they say is if you remember the 80s on
You
the
weren't
Sunset
there.
Strip, you weren't there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I can tell you, yes, there were times I just remember in the morning at the band's house picking my friends up out of the bushes.
Yeah.
And that's about
Yeah. Well,
that's about all you remember about that night.
Similar vibes. Last
Right?
time here was fun. I'm really stoked for today. It should be good. I bought a special shirt for the occasion.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That would be perfect where I live. I live in Florida.
Okay, nice.
That would be
It's
like a Florida festival shirt.
It's like a Jimmy Buffett shirt.
That's what I was thinking,
yeah,
totally.
I'm a big parrot head, so...
see, you got to do one of his festivals.
Yeah, I could do Get Drunk and Screw.
There you go.
There we go. That would be fun. Yeah.
So your first album you ever owned, I understand, is Killers.
Yes, by Iron Maiden. Yeah, my dad bought it for me from the record shop at the train station, which dates that a little bit, when I'd expressed an interest because I saw a poster in my mate's older brother's bedroom and I thought it was cool. And my dad bought me a copy of Killers on cassette, which to this day my parents regard as their major error in my upbringing because it was a light switch moment for me.
Right.
My whole life divides into before and after that record.
And see, a lot of times I'll ask artists I've never met, what was that light switch moment?
Yeah.
And there it is, right there.
For lots of reasons. I mean, it was heavier than anything I'd ever heard before. My parents don't really listen to modern music. My old sister listened to a few bits and bobs that I liked, but it was heavy. But the other thing, and I think this is true for a lot of Maiden fans, it was mine. Do you know what I mean? I found it. It was mine. Yeah. And I didn't really know anybody else who liked it. And it's very easy to get quite obsessive about that band, which I...
It's still, to this day, my favorite album by Maiden, you know?
Yeah, I sort of hate to say it, but I think it's probably mine as well.
Well, see, there you go.
Well, part of the reason I hate to say it is I don't want to be one of those, like, Paul Di'Anno was better than Bruce Dickinson kind of people.
I don't even know if I am Team Paul Di'Anno, but I also love Bruce Dickinson.
I think Bruce Dickinson is Maiden to a degree, and
Totally.
I think he deserves all the kudos and all the respect. But just that record's got Murders on the Rue Morgue on it and Killers, which are two of my favourite songs of theirs.
Oh yeah, Murders. I can listen to that all day,
Right.
over and over again.
Exactly.
So I want to really talk about too No Man's Land, because that's the coolest shit ever. I own several radio stations. One is an all women's empowerment radio station. And I just love, tell them why you've done this.
Well, so this was back in, I think it was 2018 that record came out, I want to say, 2018 or 19. Basically, I'm a history nerd, like, to a really quite tedious degree. Like my band and crew run a mile when I start talking about history because I never stop. I had this idea, I tend to write sort of confessionally and about my own life and that kind of thing, and after it was my 8th record. So after 7 records of that, I thought it was time to kind of switch gears a bit. And I thought I'd write some history songs, and I started writing them, and I got about 5 songs in, and all of them were songs. My idea was to write songs about people from the historical record who've been kind of ignored or overlooked, or, you know, who I think deserve a bit more kind of attention. And I got 5 songs in, and all of them were about female historical figures. And it was, I mean, there's an obvious political point in that,
right.
Do you know what I mean, about the way our historiography has evolved over the centuries. But I decided at that point that I might as well stick with the plan. So it's 11 songs about female historical figures and 1 song about my mum.
And you even did a podcast.
I did, yeah. So that was the thing. So I did. I mean, I hesitate to use the word research because once upon a time I was going to be an actual historian who does real research, and I didn't exactly go in the archives with cotton gloves or anything. But I read around the subject as much as I could with each of the people. It was something that was quite hard to do because the idea was that they were obscure people. I mean, there are no full books about Cassiani, who was a Byzantine courtier who told the emperor to piss off, and it's a great story.
Nice.
But, you know, I read around it as much as I could. But once the record was done, we made a podcast to go with it. And each episode, I actually sat down with a real historian who knew what they were talking about to talk through the songs, which was cool, but the wrong way round to do it. Because in more than one instance, I was sort of going through the lyrics that I've written and talking about the person. They said, and then this happened. They're like, no, it didn't. And they were real historians, so they knew what they were talking about. So I had a song about Dora Hand, who was a vaudeville singer from Dodge City in the 1870s. And I'd read one account of her funeral, and the curator of Dodge City Museum just went, that's totally not what happened.
Wow. You know what? It reminded me right that second about Ozzy. Just a couple years ago, found out that he really didn't piss on the Alamo.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. That's almost disappointing.
After all those years of him avoiding the Alamo, it was actually in that show he did with Jack, you know, and Jack brought him to the Alamo. He's like, I can't go there. Turns out he's never been barred from the Alamo. So,
wow.
Same type of thing.
You're busting rock and roll myths now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, tell us how your mother made the list.
Oh, well, I've written 11 songs, and my mum is a remarkable person. I had some, let me phrase this well, I had some rocky moments in my upbringing, and my mum was incredibly stalwart through those moments for her kids, in a way that I'm not sure I really appreciated at the time, as kids often don't.
Like all of us.
And I sort of look back on it now and realise quite what my mum went through when we were kids, and quite what she put up with, and quite what she tolerated and indeed kept from us in a protective way.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was admirable, so I started writing a song about that, and it made the list. And the last episode of the podcast is me interviewing my mum, which was terrifying.
Now, okay, so that was going to be my next question. Did she dispute the historical information that you put about her?
I mean, I think she continues to have a more self-effacing take on things, if you know what I mean. To her credit, I would say, but I love her to bits, and she's a remarkable person. So
yeah, and you know what? Parents and kids always have a very different perspective of what happened during that time.
Of course.
Like my kids will say stuff, I'm like, no. Oh yeah, I'm telling you, Dad. No, I was there.
Yeah.
You know. So let's talk about your newest single too.
Yeah, sure. So just over a year ago, I released my 10th solo album, Undefeated.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's sort of mad. I mean, I'm both proud and slightly startled by the fact that I've done 10 records.
Right.
And yeah, it came out, and we did a bunch of singles from that. The most recent single we did was a song called Somewhere in Between, which is a song about, it's one of the most personal songs I've ever written, and I write personal songs all the time, and it took some doing to write and to get it right. And I worked with a director called Stuart Alexander on a video, and I know we sort of live in a world in which videos don't quite mean what they used to, but this was a really special piece of art, I think, which I can't really take credit for because it was his work, but I'm really, really proud of the song, and I love it.
Well, I love it too, and
Thank you.
Love that you have that feeling about video, because sometimes I'm like, why are these people doing videos like that? It looks terrible.
Yeah, and I mean, good Lord, I'm as guilty as that as anybody else. There's videos in my catalogue that I would delete if I could. But this was a special instance. He's a very well-respected director, and he got in touch with me and just said, I love that song and I want to make a piece for it. I've got an idea. And I just said, have at it. You do you. And we did a thing where I had to cover up all my tattoos with makeup.
Really?
And I was sort of playing a kind of alternative life version of myself.
I do remember seeing that
but putting the makeup on was weird as fuck because it's really effective. It looks like you've got no tattoos, and obviously you're very used to your tattoos if you have them.
Right.
And it was really trippy taking them all off as it
Good
were.
for a practical joke though. Like,
yeah.
You could go out and mess with your friends.
Yeah, I took some photos. Well, the one thing about it is the makeup comes off everywhere, so like you can't touch anything basically once it's on because you just leave flesh-colored handprints everywhere you go. And I had to do a bunch of scenes in my car, and my car was fucked afterwards. It was like it looked like a murder scene.
Wow. Well, it's great you're here at Punk Rock Bowling.
Very stoked to be here.
Do you have any final words you want to say?
I think long live Punk Rock Bowling, really. I think the lineup this year is the best that I've seen with it. Lambrini Girls, Nobro, Co-Defendants, Laura Jane Grace, me, Amigo the Devil, Social D. I could go on for ages.
I know,
but there are a few of them around the world. I was at Pooza Fest the other day in Montreal, which is kind of similar, but it's just sort of a bit of a gathering of the tribes in a way that makes me feel really good about being part of this community.
Well, we're glad you're part of it.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Hi, I'm Frank Turner, and you are lucky and wise enough to be listening to Pipeman on W4CY.com radio.